Did you see that video that's going viral where the girl shows the pregnancy test? And then she's crying, like, what am I? You saw that, Ian?
Yeah, I just saw it today.
She's like, what am I going to do? Ha, just
gosh.
kidding. She throws it. She's like, I already got the appointment. Well, and then she pours a bottle of wine. I saw Phil Lamonti tweeted it, and he was like...
It was an abortion thing.
What?
An abortion.
Yeah. She's pro-choice. And
Oh,
she
she
was
already
like,
got the... Right.
She's holding the pregnancy test going like, oh no, what's going to happen? And then starts laughing. Ha ha, I am what conservatives fear. And then she drinks wine or something. And I'm like, I'm not a conservative. I don't fear you, but I am disgusted by you. Because these leftists, their ideology, their mentality is built upon one-upping each other on social media. Mm-hmm. So they don't realize that, like, I grew up in a Democrat household of pro-choice individuals who thought abortion was disgusting, but for political and liberty reasons and medical reasons, we were pro-choice. And it's a difficult thing. Mm-hmm. And I remember my dad would always be like, it's a really awful thing. You should probably avoid it at all costs, but I understand that it's got to be between the person and their doctor, and I shouldn't be involved in it. And I remember growing up being like, safe, legal, rare. Now you've got one faction that's
shout your abortion.
Pro-abortion. Yeah. It's not pro-choice. It's literally pro-abortion. Michelle Wolf goes on Netflix screaming, you get an abortion, and you get an abortion. And Lena Dunham says she wished she had an abortion. And I'm like, these videos, man, these are horrifyingly disturbing videos for a moderate, like, former Democrat type personality. I go to my family and they're like, this is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. We're the pro-choice people. Not anymore. There was a poll I saw recently. Most people agree with safe, legal, and rare. Most people agree with a restriction on third trimester.
By wide margins.
Yes.
Wide margins, yeah.
So who are these fringe lunatics on social media believing that is what people like? So Phil is correct. If there is a move to the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade, it's going to be because moderates back off like, I'm not on your side. You're crazy. It's like, I'm not going to stand next to that lady. She can go out and protest. Right. I'm not doing it. No, I'll be over there. You guys are nuts. That's the kind of thing. That's a really good example of what's happening. There is a fringe element where they go on social media and they constantly one-up each other with the most insane psychobabble nonsense. And regular Democrat voters aren't there. So these people on social media are dictating what Nancy Pelosi does to a certain degree.
Yeah, I mean, this is how, right. But this is how the left is radicalized also. I mean, now you've got like a West Virginia, upper middle class couple with, 3 kids who are social justice warriors because they go on Instagram.
This is the craziest thing when I go to like West Virginia and I see the flags and I'm like, what are you doing? Where do you live? But these people are leaving though. I read an article from the AP. The people who are slightly more woke are leaving West Virginia.
And they're going to the big cities.
They're going to Oakland and New York and things like that. So this is the physical polarization.
Good.
This is why I said I think collapse is inevitable.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Red states will get redder, blue states will get bluer, and then eventually you're going to have someone in New York who's like going to run for office. We're going to get to the point where you have a congressperson who's screaming about how 1619 is fact, and these conspiracy Q lunatics believe this country was founded in 1776. Can you believe it? And then you're going to have the Republican being like, because it was. And the guy's going to pull out a cane, start whacking him. And you know what that leads to, right?
Right.
So when you see that the ideologies are so completely broken.
Right. But we're there already. It's just, it hasn't happened yet. Right?
It's because
all the bricks are in place.
Well, no. So there's still a large portion of older people who are like sitting there with their feet up, kind of like, I don't know. I don't understand what's happening. But you look at the younger generations that are being raised in this war. Millennials, Gen Xers, not so much in it, No.
I mean, this is what I was just saying this the other day. Gen X is like, you guys. I mean, I'm Gen X,
right? But then millennials, full scale,
full on, yeah.
Gen Z, it is substantially more. They're very like internet based, and so I don't know where Gen Alpha will go, but I think when you raise people in this in this climate, what's going to happen is a millennial understands history of 1776, but then here's 1619. If their tribe deem it so, they say, okay, 1619. But they still understand, well, there are history books, but they're this, that, or otherwise. What happens when you have these kids, Gen Alpha, growing up, where they only know 1619 from their parents? Yeah. Then they're like, these people are conspiracy lunatics who believe in some fringe alternate history about Benjamin Franklin. Like, well, he has nothing to do with anything. He's not who founded this country. And then what happens when those two people meet each other over a conflict? They can't even have a discussion over the ground they stand on. Mm-hmm. when the United States gets into a conflict with another country, we don't necessarily have arguments over like their country versus our country and our histories. It's like resources versus resources, or the future of the countries. Hey, you need a trade agreement with us because we want to use this river or this strait or whatever.
Well, it's one reason why democracies don't fight each other.
Right.
Because we feel like we need to have conversations about first principles.
But
we can't have conflicts about it.
What happens when you have the 100% red states, 100% blue states, and you go to Congress and someone says, I hereby think that all guns should be banned, and the other side says, I think constitutional carry should be universal. Those are like, so I was reading about gun control. We talked about it a bit this week. In the 80s, most states may issue concealed carry permits, meaning you probably wouldn't get one. Today, there's like 20-something plus states that are constitutional carry. Texas just signed it. That means if you're a resident of Texas, you can just walk around with a gun, you can conceal it, constitutional right to do so. That's a much more extreme version than where we were 40 years ago, even for conservatives. And the Democrats now are nominating a guy, David Chipman, who's like, I want to ban all guns.
That guy's crazy.
He's nuts. He's like any semi-auto that takes with a detachable magazine that takes over 22 caliber. So it's like every single gun, every rifle. Sorry.
Right. Okay. So what people are saying is that he's just a plant. He's an expendable feint.
Yeah, so it's a big ask.
In order to get the next guy in.
And the next guy who comes in will be like, we're not going to ban AR-15s.
Exactly.
But we will NFA them.
Right.
So here's what I'm saying. The Democrats are at the point where for the past several years, they've been straight up ban all guns. I'm not kidding. They've actually advocated for consistently banning semi-automatic weapons. That's like every single handgun, all of them. That's it. That's almost every rifle. So you'll have bolt actions, lever actions, revolvers, but it gets rid of like 80-90% of guns. They just ban them. And then you have the conservatives who are like constitutional carry. And then you have people like me who end up falling on the 2A side because it's freedom. And I'm like, everybody should have a government issued Barrett M82 with a box of 1,000 rounds. I'm kidding, by the way. But I've jokingly talked about, semi-jokingly, the Department of Gun Services guaranteeing the right to own a firearm because it's in the Constitution.
Sure. If
you want universal health care, well, we have a right to bear arms, so we get that first. I digress. The point is, the Democrats are to the as extreme as possible. The conservatives are getting, I wouldn't say extreme, but in a sense. I don't want to say extreme because being like, do your thing as the Constitution dictates, I wouldn't call that extreme. I would call that foundational. But it is very
I think conservatives are going from yelling stop to actually putting their foot down and say, okay, we're going to stop. That's why the DeSantis bill is important.
Yeah.
Because instead of just, bitching and moaning about big tech censorship, it's something.
Where are the rest of the red states?
This is a problem. This is a huge problem. And I hope it's I hope it lets people know about the dire nature of the situation. That it's only Florida.
Everybody do this. Tell your friends, your state. If you're in a red state, you call your politicians and you say, please just do everything DeSantis is doing. Just there you go. We're done. I will say the DeSantis bill is good on social media censorship, but I'm told the Abbott one is better. So follow the Texas social media.
Because of Ken Paxton, who's great.
Yeah, so I guess in Texas it actually treats, this is what I was told by Alan Bakari, that it treats the social networks like common carriers.
Right.
So it's like a phone company now.
Yeah.
Florida doesn't, which means it'll be very difficult to enforce a lot of what they do, hence they're being sued. So, but I'm talking like constitutional carry and social media rights and stuff like that. Just DeSantis, do that stuff.
Yeah, and I mean the other.
You got to call and tell them.
Right. The other aspect of this too is to make sure in Florida at least you've got cities and municipalities that are really excited now. I know the mayor of Miami is just excited as can be about bringing more people into Miami. Well, he's got to do this in a responsible way, so as not to bring in. He wants to make Miami the new hub of big tech. Okay, that's great. You're going to bring 1,000 social justice warriors in from Silicon Valley. You're not going to win again if that's what you do.
I got better. I'm going to start hiring. I'm hiring people and making them all to move to West Virginia. So it's like we're hiring, and we need to hire like a ton of people, but you got to live in the middle of nowhere. And hey, West Virginia's paying people like $12,000 to move there.
Yep.
So it's
really?
a great opportunity. Yeah, and there's a bunch of tax incentives. So it's like, here you go, But I get a lot of people don't want to necessarily move to West Virginia. They want to go to Texas.
Sure.
And I'm like, well, look, Texas is cool. And I get it because West Virginia's not moving fast enough.
I mean, I have friends who work in D.C. who are considering West Virginia as a place where you can commute.
Right.
it's a
You
commute.
can absolutely commute. And if maybe you'll go into the office 2 days a week, 3 days a week. It's absolutely doable.
Well, that's one of the problems is that parts of West Virginia are turning blue. They're almost blue because DC people are moving. It's hilarious. So the eastern part of West Virginia is now like 47% Democrat in one particular county because it's DC workers who moved here for freedom. Right. It's really funny because like neighborhoods apps and stuff. You can really tell who the city people are when they're complaining about like animals and bears and like gunshots going off. And you're like, you should not be living here. But there was a story that AP report I'd mentioned that they're actually losing more people. The people who are like lefty, pro-union, anti-gun are like, I just can't stand this. It's so weird and creepy and wrong. And they're leaving. And I'm like, opportunity, guys.
Sure.
If you want to live in a big city, smells like sour milk, and you can't do anything, you go ahead and do it with my blessing. You want to go in the mountains?
But that also speaks to an awareness on their side. I mean, we've been talking about this conflict, and we think about it a lot and talk about it a lot. Okay, but the other guys, even if they're not talking about it, it enters their consciousness.
I think everybody should move to West Virginia.
Everybody in the world.
No. I'm talking about like people who are paying attention.
All of India moves to West Virginia.
I mean, I think literally you could
China.
fit all of the people in the world into like Houston or something.
Really?
If they were stacked like shoulder to shoulder.
Oh, okay.
Some ridiculous thing like that. It would like, well, no, it's bigger than that, but
Right.
like very little space.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying like the people who are fleeing Minneapolis, for instance, the people who are fleeing California, don't vote for Democrats if you're going to support the local politics, but people should start setting up industry in other places.
I've got very little. For years, I'm telling people to move to red states, Florida, Texas, wherever. And I'm just, you hear the same things. Oh, I can't. I've got this reason. I've got that reason. It's like, okay, at some point, it's probably going to get bad enough for you to do it.
This is the way I explained it. Like, there's a house, and there's a small fire in the garage. And they're like, yeah, I know there's a fire there, but I think I'll be fine. And you're like, at a certain point, the fire's going to spread to the kitchen. Right. And then you're going to be sitting there, and if it spreads to the door, you're trapped.
Anybody that has a fire in their house and doesn't take immediate emergency evasive action is a moron.
And look what's happening with people who live in San Francisco.
Yep.
If you're a conservative and you live in San Francisco, I'm sorry. I
used to. I lived there for 5 years.
And you left.
And I left.
There you go. Because there's human waste all over the ground.
When I lived there, it was clean. It was clean.
What years were you there?
I was there. I guess early 2000s, and early 2000s, and in the late 90s a little bit too. But I didn't want to be surrounded by crazy people.
What part of the
people
city
pooping
were
all
you
over
in?
the street?
I was in the Mission. I was
right there.
I was on Mission.
Yeah.
I was on Mission, and then I was in Nob Hill before.
I love that area. I was over there too.
Yeah, and it was, look, I mean, it was great. It was great, but the city collapsed the same way that New York collapsed, which is that the middle class disappeared, and the middle class overlaps with the creative class too. So when the interesting people leave and they can no longer afford to live there, I mean, first the families go, and then the people who have no families but don't make a lot of money and do, play music and, cultural life things. When they can no longer afford to live in the city, you've got very poor and very rich. And it's boring, and the city falls apart, and, people are saying, oh, New York is going to come back.
No,
It's
I
not
don't think so.
coming back.
Nope.
It may be clean and safe.
Well,
in
the
future,
rats,
but it's not going to be fun.
The rats are desperate. And so there's been rat packs running around the city. So rats used to just eat the refuse. It was easy. There was always waste. Once the people disappeared, the rats had to go out and start fighting. There's like a video of like a rat fighting a pigeon, and they're like both trying to eat each other.
Oh my God.
Well, look, you've got, how many rats are in New York, do you think? Millions?
Tens of millions.
Tens of millions?
I don't know.
And there was
Hundreds of millions,
and humans were constantly throwing garbage on the ground for rats to eat, enough for the rats and the pigeons to sustain a certain level of population.
Right.
Humans all disappeared. Now all of a sudden the rats, no food, pigeons, no food. They start fighting each other. There's like a video of someone getting attacked by a squirrel too. Like a squirrel was desperate, was like biting people. Yeah, and you get bit by that, you gotta go get your rabies shots.
Sure.
Numerous shots. You want to live there? By all means, you do with my blessing. I'm gonna go out in the middle of the woods, and I went out today, and I grabbed like 30 or 40 cicadas in like 10 minutes. Just chuck them into the chicken.
Quick,
city.
yeah.
Make a nice stew.
No, I'm not gonna eat bugs off the ground. Get parasites. You get in the chickens.
Yeah.
Chickens, ate them up, gobbled them up. Hey, it's like I don't gotta buy chicken food this month. We got all the cicadas. It's crazy. It's like I walk along the edge of the property, collect in like 10 minutes like 30, 40 cicadas. An hour later,
chickens usually eat.
An hour later, I go back out. Same thing.
There's more.
Cicadas are all back. Chickens eat just chicken feed. So there's something called egg laying layer. It's a protein meal.
Okay,
they eat bugs and they eat grass.
Okay, so
They eat mice, too.
an insect can replace, for a chicken, a cicada is like a treat.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they go nuts. They love mealworms, but they're omnivores. They'll eat anything. They eat grass. They literally eat grass. Yeah, it's
They'll
funny.
eat
It's
each
funny
other,
when you can
won't
like
they?
feed them grass through the wall of like the coop, and they're just like freaking out trying to get it. Yeah, they love it. It's like spaghetti. Like they slurp it up.
It's become a thing. I never thought. I mean, whatever. I played music, lived in New York, whatever. I never knew that I would have multiple friends who owned chickens.
Yeah,
That was not a thing that I expected in my life. Yeah.
dude, city life is whack. I
thought it was like the only way to go for the first half of my life.
Yeah,
20,
but
30
communications changed it. Now people can work
Yeah,
remote.
sure.
Now we got satellite internet. Now, so when I was wanting to set up a show, I'm like, we need good internet, so we want to be in a city. It was very difficult to get internet here. It took us like 6-7 months, I think. Yeah. So we're in the middle of nowhere. We had really bad internet, and then in order to get like a business level internet,
Sure.
we had to.
And COVID probably
it's
played a
spent a
big
lot
part.
of money.
really
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah. I'm
It's
sure.
probably like 10 or 20 times the cost of normal internet, or maybe even
Yeah.
30 times the cost of normal internet.
I don't know. I think cities get a bad rap. Cities get a bad rap these days, especially from folks who are on the right or folks who have kind of recently left cities, because they used to be really cool. They used to be a lot different, and it was prior to the social media age. It was when, there's something special that happens with a bunch of people, in approximately in the same place.
Music,
Yeah.
creativity, movies.
Yeah. And
but it's homogenous. It made everything boring and the same.
so it used to not be.
Yeah, I know. I often ask people, when was the last? So we have Christmas music every year. When was the last Christmas song written?
1998.
94.
94. Mariah Carey?
All I Want for Christmas Is
Yeah.
You.
But prior to that, it was what, like 1968?
And then 50s.
Yeah.
And we still listen to the same songs.
Sure.
It's culture homogenized and then stagnated. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.